This week we are going to be looking at part 2 of the Ruth story. So we're looking at Ruth finds work this week, and if you want to follow it in your Bible, it's Ruth chapter 2, but only up to verse 16. We're doing the second half of the chapter next week, and it's really worth watching the puppet theatre video as well, preferably before you listen to me, because I'm going to be talking about it. So that's the little puppet theatre, and you'll find it on the videos, and it's Ruth part 2, Ruth finds work. Okay, so Ruth finds work, and she finds work in a barley field, picking up the leftover grain. So because of that, today I've decided to make some really quick soda bread, and I apologise that I'm always baking. I really like baking. I promise that next week I will do some really messy painting, okay? All right, so let's make the soda bread, and then I'll talk a little bit more about Ruth while I'm kneading it. So I'll put the recipe and ingredients, everything, on the screen, hopefully at some point, if I can make that technology work again. But this is what you need. Now, the recipe I've attached is from the BBC Good Food website. It's Irish soda bread. You'll also want a well-oiled tray. So I'm going to pour a little bit of oil on my baking tray and then just wipe it around, either with a little brush, or you can just use a tissue or something. And then you will want to put your oven on to preheat. Now it says that you need buttermilk, but I don't have buttermilk in the fridge. So what you can do is you can make something similar to buttermilk by just adding some lemon to ordinary milk. So I've got my 190 millilitres of milk, and then I'm just going to add roughly half a tablespoon of lemon. So it's about half a lemon that I've squeezed, and I'm just going to add that. Try and make sure you can see. There we go. I'm just going to add that. It's about a tablespoon, you see, to the milk, and give it a bit of a stir, and then leave it for about 5 minutes. And oh, there's a little fly in there as well. We'll get that out. Okay, I might do that later because that takes a bit of skill, getting flies out of milk. Ew. Oh well, you don't have to eat it, don't worry. Maybe that was on the lemon. Anyway, leave it alone for a bit and it will curdle. So the milk will start sort of going and trying to reject the lemon, and it'll kind of go lumpy and look a little bit disgusting. But that's okay. That's how you want it. Now the other part of the recipe, it says you need 2 different types of flour, but I've only got white self-raising. So I've doubled up and I've used 2 lots of white self-raising, plain self-raising flour. Okay, all clear. Right, chuck that in. Then you need half a teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda. There we are, it's my bicarbonate of soda. Promises bubbly batters. Not sure I want that. There we are, half in. Then half a teaspoon of salt. There we go, couldn't find the salt then. There we are, there's my salt. Put that in. And then I'm just going to give it a good old mix together. And I'm going to do that thing where you put a well inside, you know what I mean, where you kind of make a little bit of a dent in the middle. And I'm going to pour in my hopefully gloopy milk and lemon mixture after I've removed the fly. Okay, so The milk is now looking well and truly curdled. I don't know if you can see it, but it's kind of separating. So it looks a bit lumpy and bumpy. So I'm just going to add that into the middle, into my well. I don't know if you can see there. So I'm just going to pour it into the middle like that. Nice and lumpy and bumpy. There we go. And give it a good mix together. Okay, when you've mixed it together, my mixture was a little bit sloppy, so I added more flour. But if yours is really hard and dry, you might want to put a little bit more milk in. So when it's the consistency you're happy with, then flour your surface. And then we're going to knead the dough. So I'll show you how to knead, though I expect a lot of you already know. And then I will tell you how it links to Ruth today. Okay, my dough is very sticky, so I'm going to sort of coat it with lots of flour, and I might have to add more flour as we go. So kneading is when you press it down with the heels of your hands, fold it over and twist it round. So this is extremely sticky. I'm going to get more flour. I'll have to check my measurements to make sure I've got them right. There. Okay, so I'm going to just lick it into shape and then talk to you about Ruth. So we remember that Ruth has followed Naomi back to Bethlehem, back to the land of Israel, away from her own homeland. And Ruth is showing a real act of love and faithfulness, sticking with Naomi and wanting to follow Naomi's God. But obviously they arrive back in Bethlehem and they've got nothing, and they've got no way of supporting themselves. Because part of the problem in those days was that it was very difficult for women to go out and get jobs and earn money and own land and own houses. It was a very sort of different culture. But Ruth is determined to support Naomi, and also she trusts God for the small things. They literally are trusting God for their daily bread. Now, one of the ways that God is able to provide for Ruth and Naomi is through a sort of a thing that God set up, a way of looking after the poor that God instructed the Israelites, and that's through something called gleaning. So in those days, when the farmers picked the harvest, obviously they didn't have machines, so they had lots of workers who went around scything down all the wheat and corn and gathering them into bundles and collecting them in. And of course, they couldn't get every last bit. They kind of missed bits or dropped bits or forgot about bits. And God said, leave the bits that you miss or you drop, leave them behind for poor people, people who have nothing to gather for themselves. So that's what Ruth did. She went out doing this lowliest of jobs, gathering up the leftovers that the farm workers had left behind. And it just so happened she ended up working in the fields of a man called Boaz. And Boaz trusted God too. And he noticed Ruth. And he was really impressed with her because he had heard how she had left her homeland. She had come to Bethlehem. She was really taking care of Naomi, and she was working hard. And he could see that she was putting her trust in God. And he says something really beautiful to her that I'm going to have to find in my Bible. He says, he speaks to her and he says, "May you be richly rewarded by the God of Israel, the Lord, under whose wings you have come to take refuge." I love that. Ruth was taking refuge under the wings of God, a little bit like how little baby ducklings or chicks sort of gather under their mother's wings. Okay, so we now have a ball of dough, which I'm going to put on my oiled tray. I'm going to get a knife and put a cross in it first. So let's put it on the tray and lift it up so you can see. There we are. So I'm going to put a cross in it and put it in the oven for, I don't know, I'll have to look that up. I'll shove it in the oven first and then I'll check how long it goes in for. So I've just checked the recipe. It says bake for 30 minutes or until the loaf is hollow when tapped. So I'll put the timer on for half an hour and then I will be tapping my loaf. How exciting. See you later. Okay, the timer's gone, so I'm going to get it out of the oven and knock to make sure it's hollow. Make sure you use oven gloves, by the way, and get an adult to help you with putting things in and out of the oven. Let's do the knocking test. That sounds really hollow. Okay, I'm going to put it on a wire rack to cool for a bit and then we will taste it. So here we have the cooled down soda bread. It kind of looks bigger than I imagined. So I'm going to break it a piece off. I'm going to break it open and maybe taste it. Now, while you're tasting your bread, I think it's a really good opportunity to think about thanking God for the ways that he does provide for our needs. Because Ruth and Naomi found that they could trust God to provide for them. And sometimes I think it's easy to feel like there are lots of things that are not being provided, that there are lots of things that we're not getting or seeing in our lives. And those are not necessarily wrong things or bad things. Especially at the moment, there's lots of things that are good and healthy and normal that we can't do. And we can't go to, and we can't see people in the same way. We can't do things in the same way. School is different if you've already been back, and if you haven't, it'll be going back in September to a slightly different sort of thing. Church, we're not able to meet at church, we're not able to meet in our groups. It's different. But there are loads of ways in which God does meet so many needs. We have something to eat at our next meal. We have somewhere warm and dry to sleep. We have people that care for us. So as you maybe taste a little bit of your bread, just think of some of the everyday basic things that God has provided and is providing for you. And if we learn to trust God and thank him for the small things in our lives, we can then trust God and see him working in the bigger things in our lives. Okay, I'm going to taste this very carefully now. I'm going to let you into a secret. I couldn't find the fly. It's in here somewhere. I don't think I'm going to tell anybody though. I hope it's not in this bit. I'm just going to break it open. That's good. It's a bit crunchy. I think I put too much lemon juice in as well. It's nice. See you next time. Bye-bye.